Imagine spending an entire decade of your life, not to mention like thousands of your own hard-earned dollars, just passionately supporting this digital world.
Right, yeah.
You know, you are the reason this world still exists. You're literally the foundation of the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, for this massive 10-year anniversary celebration, the creators of this world announce, like, the ultimate prize.
The Holy Grail.
Exactly. A legendary reward that you've been dreaming about since day one.
Mm.
But then, you know, when you show up to claim it, you realize the doors are just, they're locked.
Yeah, you're not on the list.
Right.
Yeah.
The ultimate prize isn't actually for you. It's just been handed completely for free to an influencer who, I mean, barely plays the game, simply because they showed up to a PR stunt in Times Square. So welcome to the deep dive.
I mean, it is just the ultimate slap in the face. It's taking the dedication of this massive, loyal community and just, you know, treating it as completely secondary to a social media follower count.
It really is. Today, we are dissecting a fascinating and honestly completely baffling controversy in the gaming world. We're looking really closely at a recent YouTube video from the creator, Dolan Darkest.
Right, the video titled The Pokémon GO Meltdown?
Yes, that's the one. And our mission for you today is to basically figure out how a company celebrated a massive 10-year anniversary milestone.
Which is huge in the gaming industry, by the way.
Oh, massive. A moment that conceptually should have been like an absolute slam dunk.
Yeah.
And somehow they managed to completely alienate their core audience in the process.
And let me establish the stakes for you right out of the gate here.
Please do.
Because even if you don't play the specific game, even if you've never downloaded a mobile game in your entire life, you really need to pay attention to this.
Yeah, it's way bigger than just a game.
Exactly. Because what we are analyzing today is an absolute masterclass in the complexities of modern community management. It is like a massive flashing warning sign about the pitfalls of modern influencer marketing. It perfectly illustrates that incredibly delicate, often, you know, precarious balance between corporate brand promotion and actual boots-on-the-ground customer loyalty.
It really is this universal story about brand loyalty. And, you know, the staying power of Pokémon GO is a huge part of this context, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Because for a lot of people who are maybe outside the gaming bubble, they might mistakenly think this game was just like a quick fad that faded away years ago.
Right. They remember that crazy summer of 2016.
Exactly. When everyone was wandering around public parks, you know, bumping into street lamps and traffic signs.
Right. Chasing digital monsters in the real world.
Yeah, but it didn't fade. That's the thing. It quietly morphed into this massive global multi-billion-dollar phenomenon.
With an incredibly dedicated daily player base.
Yes, we are talking about people whose daily routines, their social lives, and, quite frankly, their disposable income are heavily tied to this app. And when you have a community that invested, the stakes for how you treat them are just astronomically high.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to start with the 10-year promise.
We do. Because to really understand the depths of the outrage here, we first have to understand the sheer brilliance of this setup.
Right, because it started off so well.
It did. 10 years ago, when Pokémon GO was first announced, I mean, before anyone had even downloaded it onto their phones, they released this conceptual trailer.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was designed to show what the feeling of the game was supposed to be, right? And the climax of that trailer showed these massive crowds of real players all standing shoulder to shoulder in the middle of Times Square in New York City.
Just furiously tapping their phones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Working together to battle the legendary Pokémon Mewtwo.
Which, I mean, for anyone who actually played the game at launch, was just completely impossible.
Oh, 100%.
The game simply did not have the software capability to handle that kind of coordinated, massive multiplayer battle in one specific geographic location.
Not even close. Right. Like, the servers could barely handle someone catching a digital pigeon in their own backyard.
Yeah, the game crashed constantly back then.
Exactly. Let alone thousands of people fighting a massive boss in Times Square. It was pure fantasy.
It was. It was basically a marketing aspiration. It was a promise of what the technology might, you know, one day become. But fast forward to right now, for this 10th anniversary, the company decided to finally bring that exact decade-old trailer to life.
Which is wild.
Right. They actually hosted a huge real-world event where people could physically go to Times Square and fight Mewtwo. They completely recreated that visual from the 2016 video.
I have to admit, conceptually, I am just obsessed with that.
It's a great idea.
It's like a It's like a legendary rock band finally playing the mythical secret reunion gig that they promised in some throwaway interview a decade ago,
Yeah.
Complete with the ultimate backstage passes. It's just the ultimate fan service.
What's fascinating here is the sheer narrative payoff of that decision from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, break that down.
Well, in the gaming world, players have incredibly long memories.
Oh, they document everything.
Exactly. They catalog every trailer, every developer interview, every single piece of concept art. So by fulfilling a visual promise from 10 years ago, the company isn't just throwing, like, a random anniversary party.
Right.
They are explicitly telling their players, we remember where we started, and we know you remember too. We finally made it.
That's powerful.
It is. It creates this deeply immersive shared narrative between the developer and the community. It totally validates the players who stuck around for a decade waiting for the technology to actually catch up to the dream.
And the way they built the hype for this event. I mean, this wasn't just a basic press release or some flashy graphic on Twitter.
No.
They actually used physical space to tell a digital story, which I find just incredible.
Yeah, the Shibuya stunt.
Right. So in the Shibuya Pokemon Center over in Tokyo, Japan, there is, well, or was, this incredibly famous large physical display of Mewtwo in a sort of stasis tank.
Right, it's a huge tourist attraction over there.
Yeah. And for this Times Square anniversary promotion, the company actually physically removed the Mewtwo statue from the retail store in Shibuya.
They literally left an empty tank.
Yes.
The direct implication being that Mewtwo had, actually escaped from Japan and was currently making its way across the globe to New York City for this specific Times Square promotion.
I mean, I am just stuck on the logistics of that.
It's a lot of work.
Think about the creative effort required to coordinate the physical dismantling and removal of a massive statue in a high-traffic retail store in Tokyo.
Yeah.
All just to build narrative hype for a digital event happening halfway across the world in New York City.
It's brilliant.
It shows that the company absolutely understands the concept of global spectacle. They know how to build a world.
It is environmental storytelling at its absolute finest. By creating an absence in the real world, like an empty space where a beloved statue used to be, they generated just a tidal wave of digital hype. They completely blurred the lines between physical reality, augmented reality, and narrative lore. I mean, if you are a player sitting at home anywhere in the world and you see photos of an empty, broken display case in Tokyo on your social media feed.
Makes it feel so real.
Exactly. It makes the impending event in Times Square feel incredibly tangible. It makes the digital world feel like it's bleeding into the real world.
And to top it all off, the reward for the people who showed up to Times Square wasn't just like a digital pat on the back or some generic trophy.
Oh, definitely not.
The reward was highly specific, highly coveted, and completely exclusive. The source breaks down that the players who fought Mewtwo at the Times Square event received a Mewtwo with 100% perfect stats, along with a special, unique Times Square digital background.
Okay, we really need to define what 100% perfect stats actually means mechanically within the context of this game.
Yeah, please do, because to an outsider, it just sounds like a nice little bonus, right? Like a gold star in your homework.
Right, but in these games, mathematical perfection is the ultimate functional status symbol.
Okay, because this isn't just a cosmetic thing. Can you break down the underlying causality there? Like, why does a player actually care if it has perfect stats versus, say, 95% perfect stats?
Well, in a game based on catching, training, and battling digital creatures, the underlying attributes of every creature are completely randomized when you encounter them.
Like rolling dice.
Exactly. These are often called individual values, or 4Bs. They dictate the creature's attack power, its defense, and its stamina. So a creature with absolutely perfect mathematical stats, a 100% IV creature, is basically the holy grail.
Right.
Mathematically, it hits specific damage breakpoints that a 95% creature simply cannot hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In a highly competitive player versus player battle, that 5% difference is literally the margin between winning a tournament and losing. It represents the absolute pinnacle of mathematical potential.
So it fundamentally changes your ability to compete within the game's ecosystem.
Precisely. And then you add the unique visual marker, that Times Square background on the character screen, that serves as permanent, unforgeable digital proof that you were part of this exclusive historic moment. You have the ultimate weapon, and it's wrapped in a visual VIP badge.
Okay, so let's summarize the board here. We have this incredible visionary setup. They honor a 10-year-old promise.
Yep.
They execute a brilliant cross-continental physical marketing stunt with the Shibuya statue.
Right.
They offer the absolute ultimate in-game reward, both functionally and cosmetically. From a marketing standpoint, it's flawless.
Yeah.
The table is perfectly set for the greatest celebration in the game's history.
It really was.
So I have to ask you, if the marketing team is this incredibly smart, if they put this much genius thought into the lore and the physical environment, how on earth did they completely fumble the actual execution? Like, where did the disconnect happen?
Well, the disconnect happened the exact moment they transitioned from the conceptual marketing phase to the actual community execution phase.
The reality of it.
Yeah. The genius of the setup was completely and instantly undone by the reality of the guest list.
Ugh, the velvet rope.
Yeah.
The sheer brilliance of that Shibuya marketing stunt just makes the reality of the Times Square event so much worse. Because when everyday fans actually tried to participate in that brilliant narrative,
They couldn't.
right, they were completely shut out. It turns out this epic, decade-in-the-making Times Square event was strictly invite-only.
And we aren't talking about invite only in the sense of like a fan lottery where any dedicated player who registered had a fair chance of being selected.
Right, which would have been understandable.
Exactly. But the source material highlights that the guest list consisted heavily, almost exclusively, of content creators, influencers, and media personalities.
So everyday fans couldn't willingly attend, even if you lived right around the corner from Times Square.
Yep.
Even if you had played the game every single day for 10 years, logged thousands of hours, and spent thousands of dollars. You could not go unless you were an influencer with a specific follower count, or you were lucky enough to personally know somebody on the PR list.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the massive friction between modern influencer marketing and traditional community loyalty just ignites.
Yeah, it's a huge clash.
The company utilized their decade of community history to create this deeply nostalgic event meant to celebrate a milestone. But then they restricted physical access to a group of people whose primary relationship with the game is often, professional, transactional, or based on content creation, rather than purely passionate gameplay.
Right. You might be thinking, well, it's just a digital background and some stats. Who cares? But think about how this applies to the brands you interact with in your own life.
It's a great exercise.
Imagine if your favorite airline, an airline you've flown exclusively for 10 years, earning platinum status, suddenly decided to give lifetime, free first-class upgrades to a group of TikTokers who've only flown with them, like, twice.
Oh, people would riot.
Exactly. While you, the loyal customer who funded their actual business, were told to pay extra just to get a middle seat in economy. That is the exact level of betrayal we are talking about here.
That is a perfect parallel. And the contrast they set up for the rest of the community, the 99% who weren't invited, is just brutal.
Yeah, because there was another event.
Right. Because alongside this highly exclusive Times Square event, there was a global digital event happening that exact same weekend for the regular players.
Right.
In this global event, regular players could also battle and catch a Mega Mewtwo. But, and this is a massive distinction, the global version completely lacked the unique Times Square background, and the stats were completely randomized.
Okay, we need to pause and explain a couple of things for the non-gamers here. First, what is a Mega Mewtwo? And second, what does it actually take for a regular player to catch one of these things during a global event? Because you don't just, open the app while sitting on your couch and press a button. Right?
Oh, not at all. A mega evolution is a temporary hyperpowered state for a creature, which requires the player to grind for specific digital energy to even activate.
Okay.
And to get that energy and to get the chance to catch the creature itself, players have to participate in what the game calls a raid.
And what does a raid actually entail in the real world? What is the player doing?
For a regular player, a raid is an intense logistical hurdle. It requires you to physically travel to a specific real-world location, like a local park or a post office or a monument at a specific time.
Right.
You then have to coordinate with a group of other actual human beings to ensure you have enough collective firepower to defeat the digital boss.
Which is hard enough on its own.
Yeah. And crucially, you have to use a raid pass to even enter the battle. The game gives you 1 or 2 free passes a day, but if you want to do more than that, which you absolutely have to if you are hunting for perfect stats,
right,
you have to buy premium raid passes with real money.
So it costs physical time, physical travel, social coordination, and actual financial investment. That is the baseline requirement for the regular player just to get a single roll of the dice.
Yes. And that brings us to the most insulting part of this entire controversy, mathematically speaking.
The math is crazy.
It is. The influencers in Times Square were basically handed a Mewtwo with a 100% perfect stats, guaranteed just for walking through the VIP entrance.
Just for being there.
Yep. But for the regular players grinding out these paid raids all weekend, the source video breaks down the statistical disparity, and it is absolutely staggering. The odds of a regular player catching a Mewtwo with 100% stats during that global weekend were exactly 1 in 216.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because 1 in 216 is a very specific, very insidious number. Let's dig into the psychology of that.
Yeah, right.
Because if the odds were like 1 in a million, people wouldn't even try, right? They'd just give up.
Yeah.
But 1 in 216, that does something to the human brain, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It is a psychological trap rooted deeply in gambling mechanics and behavioral economics.
Right.
1 in a million is an abstraction. The human brain just registers it as impossible. But 1 in 216 feels tangible. It feels attainable.
It's close enough.
Exactly. It triggers the exact same psychological mechanism as a slot machine. It creates the illusion that if you just put in a little more time, if you just buy one more batch of premium raid passes, you can beat the odds. It preys on the concept of the near miss. You catch one with 95% stats, and your brain tells you that you are getting closer, even though statistically, your next attempt still has the exact same 1 in 216 chance.
It's a literal Skinner box. And beating those 1 in 216 odds requires an immense amount of real-world resources. The source specifically points out that mathematically hitting those odds would require the average player to spend hundreds of dollars on premium raid passes over a single weekend.
Hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Or you just have to rely on absolutely extreme astronomical luck.
And this is where the valuation of the player's time and money comes sharply into focus, right? By guaranteeing a statistical anomaly, a perfectly statted creature for free to VIPs, the company is fundamentally devaluing the grind of the everyday player.
Completely.
The everyday player has to sacrifice their entire weekend, travel across their city, coordinate with strangers, and spend hundreds of dollars for a mere 0.46% chance at obtaining what an influencer was simply handed for showing up to a PR photo op.
I mean, just imagine being a dedicated 10-year veteran of this game. You are spending your entire Saturday burning through your own money, grinding through raid after raid, totally exhausted, hoping against hope to hit that 1 in 216 jackpot. And meanwhile, you open up your social media and see an influencer, someone who maybe hasn't opened the app in 3 years.
Casually posting about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Casually posting about the mathematically perfect, uniquely backgrounded prize they just got for free while sipping a latte in a VIP tent in Times Square. The visual class divide there is just astounding.
It really is a class divide.
Because when you look at someone's digital collection in the game moving forward, you will instantly be able to see who was invited to the VIP tent and who was left outside in the cold to basically gamble their money away.
It breeds a very specific, very toxic kind of resentment. It tells the dedicated player that their loyalty, their 10 years of consistent daily engagement and financial support, is ultimately worth significantly less to the company than the perceived marketing reach of a social media personality.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Because I think a lot of people listening might be thinking this. Isn't this just the reality of marketing in our current era? I mean, brands send free, exclusive stuff to influencers all the time to get eyes on the product. It's how the economy works now. A makeup brand sends a massive, exclusive PR package to a beauty guru before a launch. A car company lets a YouTuber drive their new prototype before the public can buy it.
Right. Standard practice.
Influencers get VIP treatment. So why is the gaming community reacting so viscerally, so aggressively to this specific instance? What makes this different from a beauty guru getting free lipstick?
It is a completely valid question, and the difference is absolutely crucial. It lies in the fundamental nature of a digital product versus a physical product and the unique psychology of a gaming community.
Okay, unpack that.
When a makeup brand sends a PR package to an influencer, they are sending a physical sample, something that consumer can then go and purchase identically for themselves.
Right.
The influencer gets it early and they get it for free, sure, but the item itself is not restricted from the public. But in a digital ecosystem like Pokémon GO, you cannot just go to the digital store and purchase a 100% stat Mewtwo with a Times Square background.
It's literally impossible.
It is unpurchasable. It is artificially restricted from the economy entirely.
Ah. So it's not just about getting a free sample. It's about the company manipulating the very fabric of the game's reality to create a class of items that normal players are locked out of forever.
Exactly. Digital scarcity is entirely artificial. Furthermore, a 10-year gaming community feels a profound sense of ownership over the virtual world they inhabit.
Yeah, they live there.
They feel they have built the game alongside the developers through their ongoing participation, their metagame analysis, and obviously their financial support. They are the ecosystem.
They hold up the sky in that world.
Yes, beautifully put. So when a brand gives an influencer an exclusive digital item that the community cannot earn through traditional gameplay mechanics or even purchase, it violates the unwritten social contract of the game world.
Right.
The foundational contract of almost all video games is effort equals reward. If you put in the time or the skill or even the money, you achieve the reward.
That's the whole point of a game.
Exactly.
Right.
But this Times Square event completely rewrote that contract to say external social status equals reward. And for a community that has spent a decade investing their time, money, and identity into this specific digital world, that isn't just an annoying marketing campaign. It feels like a fundamental betrayal of the game's core principles.
That perfectly explains the emotional weight of it. It's not just petty jealousy. It's a feeling of systemic injustice within a world they care deeply about.
Right.
Which leads us directly into how the company attempted to address this growing anger from the community and the massive, massive PR meltdown it caused.
Oh, the PR response. Right, because when you find yourself in the middle of a crisis of community trust like this, the absolute most important tool you have is your corporate messaging.
You have to get it right.
You have to thread the needle perfectly. And unfortunately for them, their messaging essentially poured high-octane gasoline directly onto the fire.
Yeah, it was bad. During the absolute height of this controversy, while the regular players are out there grinding against these predatory 1 in 216 odds, spending their money, and watching the influencers celebrate their free, perfect prizes in Times Square.
What did they do?
Pokémon GO posted a message on their official social media channels, and the message simply said, thanking every trainer for being part of the journey.
This raises an important question about corporate self-awareness and siloing within large companies.
Right.
How can a company's communications or social media team completely misread the room to such an extreme, embarrassing degree?
It's mind-boggling.
The disconnect between their actions, hosting a highly exclusive, physically guarded, secret influencer event, and their words thanking every trainer equally for a 10-year journey is staggering.
Yeah.
It suggests that the team running the social media had absolutely no pulse on the actual sentiment of the player base. Or worse, they knew and were instructed to just push through a pre-scheduled generic celebratory post regardless of the optics.
It is the ultimate tone-deaf corporate platitude. Thanks, everyone.
While locking the door in their face.
Exactly. And the community response was, as you would expect, overwhelmingly negative. The source video highlights several specific quotes from players that were posted in response to this thank you message. And I want to spend some time unpacking these because they paint a very clear picture of exactly why the players felt betrayed.
Let's hear them.
So one player wrote, every player should have had this opportunity. That's how you show appreciation to your players.
That quote right there cuts to the absolute core of the issue. The definition of the word appreciation.
Yeah.
The company viewed the Times Square event as an external marketing spectacle, right? Designed to celebrate the idea of the game to the broader public.
Like a billboard.
Exactly, a living billboard. But the players, the people actually inside the ecosystem, rightly felt that true appreciation requires shared participation. You cannot thank someone for their support by locking them out of the celebration party.
You just can't. Another player commented, all the content creators bragging about this FU, which, captures the very raw, visceral emotion of seeing that VIP access flaunted.
It's very raw.
It's one thing to not be invited. It's another to have the invited guests rub the exclusive, mathematically perfect rewards in your face on the exact same timeline where you go to discuss the game.
And it highlights the friction between the players and the influencers themselves.
Right.
The influencers are doing their job. They are generating content and hype. But to the loyal player, the influencer becomes the literal face of the company's betrayal.
Exactly. They become the scapegoat. Another person wrote, so you mean thanks to the creators, you basically shit on 99% of your player base. Thanks for that.
The recognition of that 99% versus 1% dynamic is just crucial here.
Yeah.
The players are acutely, painfully aware of the new hierarchy the company has just explicitly established. The company quantified the player's worth, and the players realized they were at the absolute bottom of the pyramid.
Someone else called it, quite possibly, the biggest marketing fifth I've seen from a gaming company. Doesn't seem you're interested in thanking every trainer equally.
Which is a totally fair assessment.
But the quote that really stuck out to me, the one that I think hits the nail perfectly on the head and introduces a massive piece of context, is this one. Giving micro-influencers better stuff than people who paid money for the local Go Fests is actually crazy.
Yes, that is the most damning critique of all.
Let's break that down.
Let's break down why that specific phrasing, micro-influencers and Go Fests, is so incredibly important here.
Okay.
First, the use of micro-influencers. The player is pointing out that the company wasn't just inviting massive mainstream celebrities like A-listers.
Right.
They were inviting people with relatively small niche followings. The everyday player looking at this realizes, I have likely spent more actual money on this game over 10 years than that micro-influencer even has followers. Why are they the VIP?
That stings. It's a direct insult to the financial investment of the hardcore player.
And what about the second part of that quote, the mention of Go Fests? Because this changes everything.
It really does. This is where the company's defense completely falls apart. As the source notes, Pokémon GO regularly hosts massive, paid, in-person events all around the world called Go Fests.
Right.
These are huge conventions in major cities where tens of thousands of regular players buy physical tickets, they travel, and they gather in city parks to play together and catch exclusive creatures.
Wait, so this wasn't a situation where the company just had no idea how to handle a large crowd in a physical space?
Not at all.
They do this all the time. They literally have the ticketing systems built. They have the crowd control protocols in place with major city governments.
Yep.
They have the digital infrastructure to handle tens of thousands of everyday fans gathering in a single physical location without the servers crashing. Exactly. They have a completely proven, highly monetizable model for inclusive, large-scale in-person celebration. They know exactly how to do this safely and profitably.
Wow.
They could have easily utilized that existing infrastructure for this anniversary. They could have sold tickets to a massive democratized Times Square event, or held parallel events in major cities globally where players could gather to fight Mewtwo together, just like the original trailer.
Which would have been incredible.
It would have been. They could have made it a true shared celebration of the fans who have kept the lights on for 10 years.
But they actively chose not to.
Precisely. They actively chose to bypass their own proven community infrastructure in favor of manufacturing an artificial, secret, lucky few gathering entirely for social media optics.
They chose the illusion of hype over the reality of community.
It feels exactly like a massive corporation throwing a lavish $1 million 10-year anniversary party.
Oh, here we go.
They send out a company-wide email to everyone saying, we couldn't have done it without all of you. Thank you so much for your hard work.
But then you find out they only invited the marketing interns, the PR team, and a few local journalists to actually drink the champagne and eat the caviar.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the factory workers, the people actually building the product on the line day in and day out, the people who actually generate the revenue, are forced to just watch the party through the glass windows from out in the cold.
That analogy is spot on. And to take it a step further based on the mechanics of the game, the factory workers in this scenario aren't just watching from the cold. They are being told that if they want a tiny sip of that champagne, they have to go to a casino across the street and gamble hundreds of dollars of their own money for a 1 in 216 chance at winning a lesser, cheaper vintage of the same champagne.
Oh man, that is so bleak.
It is a fundamental, catastrophic breakdown in community relations. It shows a complete lack of respect for the user base.
It really is a complete unforced error on the part of the developers. They had the ultimate winning hand and they just threw it right in the trash.
True.
And that brings us to the ultimate irony of this whole situation, which the source material captures perfectly at the very end of the video.
Yes, the conclusion of Dolan Darkest's video provides a very sharp, very revealing, and honestly quite funny piece of commentary on the psychological nature of this specific gaming community.
It really does. So after breaking down all of this intense outrage, after analyzing all of the terrible predatory odds, the influencer exclusivity, the completely tone-deaf PR, the creator asks a question to his audience.
Right.
He says, at the end of the day, what sort of person still plays Pokemon Go anyway?
A rhetorical question.
Exactly. It's a rhetorical question meant to highlight the absurdity of dealing with a company that treats you this poorly. But then, without missing a single beat, he immediately follows it up by saying, Also, check out the cool Mew I caught today, and proceeds to show off his own rare digital catch on screen.
It is a brilliant comedic pivot.
It got me.
It perfectly diffuses the tension. But more importantly, it underscores a deeply psychological truth about live service gaming and the sunk cost fallacy. It highlights the bizarre, almost magnetic hold these digital ecosystems have on their audiences.
It is so true. Fans of these live service games can be fiercely, intensely critical of the developers. They're not stupid.
Not at all.
They can see the manipulation clearly. They can recognize the inherent unfairness of the influencer velvet rope. They can actively, loudly complain on social media about the predatory monetization and the terrible odds.
And they do.
They do. And yet, despite all of that logical realization, they are fundamentally unable to walk away from the core gameplay loop itself. They still want to catch the cool monster.
Because the investment is simply too deep. The sunk cost, whether we are talking about 10 years of daily time investment, significant financial investment in premium items, or just the profound emotional and social bond they have formed with their digital collection and their local raid groups, it keeps them tethered to the software.
Yeah.
For a 10-year veteran, the game has completely transitioned from being just a piece of casual entertainment to being a daily habit, a primary community space, and for some, a core structural part of their daily routine.
It's part of their life.
Exactly. The developers can make staggering offensive community management errors, but the fundamental ingrained desire to catch the cool Mew overrides the logical outrage. The company knows, consciously or subconsciously, that they have a captive audience.
So what does this all mean? When we look back at this whole controversy, what is the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive for anyone, managing a brand, a community, or just participating in a digital economy?
We are looking at a profound, highly educational tension between brilliant conceptual marketing and incredibly poor community execution.
Right.
The initial idea, honoring a 10-year promise by bringing a mythical foundational trailer to life and using physical spaces like the Shibuya retail store to build a global narrative hype cycle that was genuinely visionary.
It was so smart.
It showed a deep structural understanding of the game's lore and the potential of augmented reality marketing.
But the execution prioritizing influencer exclusivity over fan accessibility, offering statistical perfection to VIPs for free, while aggressively asking the core audience to gamble hundreds of dollars for scraps, and then posting a completely tone-deaf, generic thank you message that showed a complete and utter lack of understanding of the human beings who actually play the game.
Precisely. It is a harsh lesson that all the marketing spectacle in the world, no matter how clever or nostalgic, cannot compensate for making your most loyal supporters feel undervalued and exploited.
It just can't.
You can engineer the most incredible augmented reality event in history. You can coordinate across continents.
Yeah.
But if you put a velvet rope in front of the exact people who funded the building of that event, the only thing they will remember is the feeling of being excluded. The spectacle becomes an insult.
Which leaves us with one final, really provocative thought to consider, building off of the idea of digital economies. Think about the fundamental nature of a digital world.
Okay.
Reproducing a digital item like a Mewtwo with 100% perfect stats and a custom Times Square background costs the company absolutely nothing. $0.
Right.
It is literally just copying and pasting lines of code on a server. It requires no physical raw materials, no shipping logistics, no manufacturing overhead. Supply is technically limitless.
It is infinite. They could give one to every single person on Earth at the push of a button.
Right. So in a digital world with infinite costless supply, does artificially restricting that supply to a handful of influencers actually build sustainable, long-term hype?
It's a great question.
Or does it permanently shatter the delicate illusion of fairness that is absolutely required to keep a digital world alive and profitable? If the players finally realize that the game is fundamentally rigged for the elite, that their 10 years of intense loyalty and financial support means infinitely less than a TikToker's follower count, how long until that magnetic hold of the sunk cost fallacy finally breaks?
Yeah, how much insult can a community take before they finally close the app and stop playing entirely?
It is the ultimate risk in community management. You can only rely on the sunk cost fallacy and the addictive core loop for so long before the accumulating resentment finally outweighs the joy of the catch. Once you break the illusion of fairness, it is nearly impossible to rebuild it.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, when someone promises you something incredible 10 years ago and you spend a decade of your life waiting to finally show up and collect, you really, really don't want to find a bouncer at the door telling you you're not on the list.